Alright, let's continue. I actually forgot the thing last video, or in the last part, and that's that I was going to show what this is. So if we just go for an OPS here, you can see that we have a lot of stuff here in the data, and we really don't want to show all of this stuff. We just want to show whatever is in here, and that's OPS. And OPS is actually an array as well. That's why we have OPS 0. I still don't know what OPS stands for. I guess it's like options, although that's usually OPTS. Anyway, that's why we have that. Before moving on, I want to move into the index.html file and add a bit of code. And that's because instead of having this one that we have now, I want to go ahead and move this. Start part of it. Yeah. I want to move all that up here instead, because that's what I did when I did myself. And then I just want to do that. So I add all of this up here instead. So, and then we can start that. Go here, update this, and then we get this. I think this is a bit nicer because then you get the get part from the beginning. If I go for get issue here, that's a bummer. Let's see, assign to Chris. Yes, that's very good. That essentially means that something is not working. We'll get back to that. But I wouldn't be able to write anything in here, obviously. And that should filter out whatever I filter for and get stuff. Do I need a title now, actually? Huh. Maybe I do. CRUD missing. Let's add that. No? It doesn't seem to be working. That's not good. Yeah, let's get back to that. Let's move on with this video, which is going to be adding stuff in these two. So we'll be able to update data and delete data. And delete data is the easiest part. The most problematic part of deleting data is adding it in the first place. So if you added an issue, it's really easy to just get that issue and deleting it from the database, because you just need the ID. So we could actually start with this one, because it's that easy. So to delete it, we obviously first need to make this connection to the database. So we'll steal this part of the code and just move down here and do that. And in here, we actually want to count documents again. I like to do that, as I said. So collection of count documents, and in here we'll go for the ID. And when we're looking for the ID, that's when we need this nice function here. So the object ID. We can't just use the. If we go here, we have this ID, right? But we can't just use this straight up. We need to use it as an object ID. Essentially, what it looks like here. We have the ID with the object ID. So we have to replicate that pretty much. So in here, we just write object ID, and then we have the vector body dot underscore ID. And that's a promise again. Count document is a promise. So we have a result from that. And if that result is 0, then it means that we cannot delete anything. So rest.send could not delete plus object ID rect.body._id, and we need to do this function here again, because otherwise we'll get another ID. We won't get ID we're actually looking for. So if we don't do this, it's gonna look like we're trying to delete an ID that we didn't send in to delete, although we're not. Sort of. Right. Else we'll have a collection.delete one. So the opposite of insert one. And we'll delete whatever is in ID, object ID, rect.body._id. And then we can do rest.send, and this is just confirmation for the user really. So deleted plus object ID rect.body._id. And client.close as well. I'm actually gonna change this a bit, I think. So yeah, here. So before we do the collection stuff here, we'll have to add in if type of rec.body._id is undefined. Again, this should never happen, because in here we, oh, I guess it can happen. Well, then we do need this. Shouldn't really be able to send in data to delete nothing. Anyway, we'll do rest.send, no ID provided, so we can't delete anything if we don't have an ID to work with. Client.close. And what did I miss here? Probably that, right? Yeah. So this is enough to delete something. We can actually try that. Let's go here. Let's do that. Let's get the ID for the post we created there, which is this one. Cancel. Let's go back to that. And add that in there. Delete issue. That doesn't look promising. Let's have a look. Oh, that's not good. Did we miss something somewhere? No. Is that this? Oh. Okay. Huh. What do we have here then? Start to. That's right. Those are connected, and that one's there. That's for that, and it's there, and that's for the else. Oh. Alright. It's up and running. That's fine. Cluster. So we should have that, but that's because that should work. Let's do that. So that looks better. Let me get that. And if we refresh this, that should be gone, hopefully. Yeah, good. So as I said, the easiest part of a CRUD application is really deleting something, and that's true for most things in the world, right? It's a lot more difficult to create something than just deleting it or destroying it. We still have one more, right? We have this put function that needs to be fixed. And to do that, we can actually go with this code again. We'll not have this though, I think, or actually, I think, let's double check that. No, we don't need that. So, here, we want to have a let this ID, and this is a terrible name by the way, but I named it that to know what I'm working with. So ref.body._id, and I'm saving this as a this ID, and then I have a comment here, and I may as well add that here as well. So does the issue already exist? I'll name this. And here we go for collection.count documents, and here we're going to count all documents with an ID that corresponds to this ID, which is obviously just going to be one only ever. We can't have several with the same ID, but as this is a promise, we can do a then result, and if result is 0, then we can't update this because it doesn't exist. So we send could not update plus rec.body._id. And client.close as well. Else we have a let data is an empty array. So essentially, like I did with the query above, we can actually do some stuff here. So rec.body.issue title, if that's not an empty string, then we can do data push, and I'm actually just going to be a bit lazy here and do this first here, because I'm going to fill in a lot of stuff here, and it's easier to just copy paste this afterwards. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fields, I think 6 fields. So where this one is issue text, create by, assign to, status text, awk, open. So if rec.body.open is false, we'll have a, instead of doing this, we'll just add an exclamation mark at the beginning, which means that if this is false, then we do data push open is false, else this should be obviously like this. So else you just push open true. I just realized that I made this wrong in my own code. I wonder why that's not an issue. Anyway, so all of these we just check for empty. So if these are empty, then if these are empty, we just don't push anything to this array. But if they're not empty, then we need to update whatever field they are connected to. So issue title needs to be vector.body.issue title. Issue text needs to be vec.body.issue text. Then we have this one, which is created by. That should be vec.body.created by. And we have assigned to rec.body.assign to. We have status text, which is rec.body.status text. So, and we're not done there obviously, but we're done with that. So if data.length, if that array is less than 1, again, because we have that part, it's always going to be one way or another. And rec.body.open. Then we do rest.send, no updated field sent, and client.close. So else if data.length is less than 2. Oh yeah, that's why I did that. Let's do that again. Anyway, so right. Yeah, let's leave it like that. Let's see, and not rec.body.open. Then we'll do rest.send, no updated field sent, and client.close. And then we'll go out of the if statement and go for a let updated object be equal to rec.body. And then we'll go updated object dot updated on is new date. So whenever we update the object, we have to update this state, not the created on, because that's obviously going to stay the same. But the updated on is to update whenever we update the issue. So substring 0 to 10. And then there's a function I found out. This is something I learned in this project. There's a function called delete in JavaScript, straight up delete. So you can delete updated object dot underscore ID. Which is pretty cool. So remove the ID from the update data. And that we're doing this. This is an issue I had, but you don't want to update the ID. So if you're finding an issue by ID, you don't want to update the ID on that issue with something else, because you still want that same ID. So in this update data that we have, this update object, which is rec.body here, so we're essentially copying this rec.body that we get and removing the ID from that, so that when we update this, we don't overwrite an ID. And then we do object.keys of updated object, dot for each, and for each item there, we do a if updated object, an item there, is an empty string. Then we just delete that, just like we did with the ID, and that's because if we have an empty string, then there is nothing to update, so we don't do that. And I had a bit of issues here, because here we have, I actually had this code from the beginning. So let updated object be equal to object.from entries data. I had that nice code lined up, and that actually works for the code itself. you can use that and have the application work, but Chai and Mocha don't like this. So if you use from entries, Chai and Mocha and the versions we use for them they're so old that they don't recognize this function, so you can't use this. So I actually had to rewrite this code after I had written it, because the test didn't work, because the test libraries are too old, which is shit. Anyway, right, we'll do a collection.update one. So we have used insert one, and we've used delete one, but we also have an update one. And when we update one, we have I'm actually gonna write this like this. So we have an ID, it's gonna be this ID, and we're gonna have a function called set, and that's also connected to MongoDB. It's a MongoDB function called set, and you set it to updated object. And this one essentially overwrites whatever fields are in this object here. And then we do rs.send, successfully updated. It's nice to know. And then we do client.close. So if we do like, we start that. No. Okay. Oh. Okay. We're probably missing that, right? No? We're missing only one. So I think. Yeah, looks right. Alright. Let's go here. Let's refresh that, and let's create an issue and write some tests. Add functional tests to the application created by Chris, assigned to someone here. To do. So if we submit that and just have a look at the database so that we get this in here, that's good. Then we could go ahead and go back here, and we could get the ID there, and if you just write that there, we should be able to just go for a close on that. That does not look good. Let's see. No, that didn't work. Okay. Huh. I need to try this. Let's see. Let's update that. Let's add that in there. Let's close that. Okay, let's go in there. Good. I think. Try it again. See that. So. No. Okay. It's a very crude way of finding out where it goes wrong. You shouldn't have the same text here, I think. Probably a good idea not to have. So all those SS, that's going over there, okay. Data like less than 1. Why would it be that? Because that's false. Then you push that. Oh. I wonder that shouldn't be like that actually. Let's have a look. Yeah. Well, what do you know? Let's see if that worked as well. Yeah, good. So apparently it's important to remember that exclamation mark there. Otherwise it doesn't work the way we want it to. Anyway, that means that we can update it properly. We can create it properly, and we can actually go ahead and delete it as well if we want to. And with that, I am gonna figure out why this doesn't work, but I'll do that off screen, and I'll go through that in the next part, where we'll also be writing the functional tests that should go in there. So see you then.